Okay, I think I'm live now. So why is this not going live? Hi, Jacob. Okay. Oh, finally, we are live. There's so much planning you do, and then the day you finally need to go live, everything breaks down.
Ah, I'm glad it's finally working.
Yeah, your audio is a bit low.
Can you hear me now?
It's still a bit low.
Let's say, how about now? Is it much better?
Yeah, I think it's a bit better.
Okay, great.
Okay, finally. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. How's your day?
Yeah. So I don't know if any other person can hear you well, but I think it's the audio is a bit low.
Uh, I'm not sure how to fix that from here. I'll try to project my voice.
Yeah, okay. Amazing. Thank you so much for joining us today. I don't know, to anyone listening, my name is Ibiemi and I'm the founder of Innovate Path Consulting Limited, where we help you to transition into in-demand roles like project management, business analysis, data analysis, and the likes. And today I have Jacob, who is a data analyst. Is going to help us. He's going to help you enlighten yourselves about data analysis, Microsoft Excel, why you should get the skills, the tools you should know, and generally everything that you need to know to make a good decision on data analysis. Without wasting time, can you just introduce yourself, Jacob, so we know you better and why should we listen to you today?
All right, so my name is Jacob. I'm a data analyst and a data scientist. I've been in the field of data for about 5 years now. I've lectured in a university training people in the field of data, and I've worked as a consultant for several organizations and a trainer as well for several organizations. One of the things that most people think is data is complicated. It's a lot of coding and programming. But data is actually something that some of us have done. In fact, not some of us, quite everyone has done in their day-to-day life. And it's an interesting field, and I think it's something that you'll find interesting once you get into it. So today I'll be helping you demystify some of the myths that you might have believed about data, um, and hopefully you will be welcoming you into the data community very soon.
Okay, I still personally feel like your audio is a bit low, but I don't know how other people listening. I don't know if the audio is okay for them, but it's a bit low.
Right.
Can you hear
I'll
me
try to.
clearly?
I can hear you pretty clearly.
Yeah, so I think your voice is a bit low.
All right.
I don't think
I'll
there's
project
anything
my.
else you can do aside from maybe I think it's your you're kind of a soft talker. So the only thing you can do is to project your voice a bit more. I know you're not like everybody can be like me. My own voice is like it's like a speaker.
Right. I will project my voice as best as I can.
As best as you can. Amazing. Okay, so today we're talking about data analysis. And
Right.
what would you say is data analysis? The reason I ask is because a lot of people think that they need to maybe learn Python, learn SQL, and that would make them a perfect data analyst. If somebody in the audience says they can hear you clearly, okay, that's fine. Maybe it's just me.
Oh, yeah, it's great they can hear me clearly.
Yeah, I think it's just me then. Okay. So a lot of people think, oh, I just need to learn the tools. And I do know that they don't need to learn the tools alone. There's so much more that comes with data analysis.
Right,
Being these businesses want to be data backed. Nobody wants to improve their business or improve their process just by hearsay or just by a bunch of interviews that you conduct. They also want to see data from the back
right,
end. Because I tell
right,
people, we're using LinkedIn, for example, we're using Instagram today. All of these organizations all capture data and they are heavily data driven. So that's why you see a new feature is coming out or you see something has popped out tomorrow because they are listening to what we say. So, what would you say is data in 2025?
Data has, in fact, there's data all around us, and like I said earlier on, at some point we've all done data analysis. We just didn't know we've done data analysis. You know, people often think that it's data analysis is something that's super technical, but it's not as technical as people think that it is. If you've ever done budgeting, right, for your household or for your own personal business, you've done data analysis. If you've tracked your daily expenses, for example, you've done data analysis. So, for example, let's say you want to go to the store and you want to buy certain things, and you know that okay, this store yesterday I went there, this store was closed at 9 o'clock. The day
Mm,
before that, I went there. This store was closed at 8 o'clock. But I went there a few days. They were open at 10. So if I go there today, at 11, they will definitely be open. That is data analysis because you're using your previous knowledge to determine what happens now. So you're doing analysis based on your experience to tell what is going to happen now and what might happen in the future. So you're doing descriptive analysis in that instance, and you're also doing predictive analysis, telling what is likely to happen. So at some point, we've all done data analysis and we just don't know that. Another analogy that I give is think of data as like cooking jollof rice, right? For those who are in Nigeria, we all love jollof rice. So you don't need to grow your own tomatoes, right? You don't need to know the chemicals that goes into preparing Maggi or all the chemicals that goes into it. What matters is knowing how to combine all the ingredients properly and knowing how to taste and to adjust it to your own palate, right? So data is the same thing. You don't need to know all the tools. You don't need to know how to build a database. You just need to know how to get information from the database. You don't need to build it from scratch. Just know how to ask the right questions and then interpret it to your own taste, which is what we call insights in data analysis. So data is something that we've all done at some point in time. It's not some big mysterious tool.
I really love the analogy because so many times we don't know that just living our lives, we are
Yeah,
literally in the skills. Although there's so many technical skills that we need to understand as well, and that's what helps to bridge the gap. With the technical know-how, then you can now say, "Oh, I'm a good data analyst," because you've learned the tools. But I always love it when people understand the basics because when you understand the basics, like you said, then you'd be able to apply it in the real world. Now, you mentioned something
yeah,
about insights. I've seen a lot of roles that do not say data analyst, they literally say insight analyst,
right,
being able to grab insights out of the data. All right, so
right.
when we say data analysis, what would you say is the ideal step, okay, that you need to take to say, oh, I'm a data analyst, but what are the steps that you need to take before you can call yourself a data analyst?
Okay, so there are several tools that we use in data analytics, and if you're coming into data, I usually tell people you don't need to have background knowledge in any of the tools, right? We can train you from basic, you can be a novice, and then we'll take you to where you need to be. The first thing you need to do is start with Excel, right? Or Google Sheets, whichever you prefer. So those two tools are like they're like the frying pan of data analytics. You master techniques like how to sort. You master techniques like filtering, creating formulas, basic formulas like how to add items together using functions like sum if, conditional formatting, VLOOKUP. index and match. So and also create pivot tables. So you'll be shocked how much you can do with these tools. Now a lot of people might think, oh, it's Excel, I use it every day. Excel is such a tool that you can't even understand, you don't even know how much it is until you get into it. Excel can do so much for you, and it can give you the foundation you need to get into data. In fact, I have so many mentees who learn only Excel, and I always tell them, don't wait until you have everything before you launch out. Just from learning
Mm,
Excel, some mentees have actually gotten job offers from there. You don't need to know everything. You just need to know a bit of it, and if you know that, they know it very well, and then launch out, and you'd find out that little that you know could actually be what they need out there. So once you've learned Excel, you can then go to the next tool, right? You can then go into SQL, right? Now, SQL is, how do I put SQL now? So think of SQL like Google, that you go and
yeah.
browse. You go and ask Google, okay, what is the name of whatever? So SQL is the same thing, right? But it comes with some structures. It comes with some lingo, right? You are querying your data and you're asking it, show me everyone who has done ABCD, everyone who has been employed for the last 10 years. And it's, in my class, I always tell people SQL is like a language, like English language, Yoruba language, right? And the same way, let's take Yoruba, for example, it has different dialects. It's the same thing
Yeah.
with SQL. It has different dialects. You have MySQL, you have MS SQL. So those are the different dialects. But the general language that they all understand is SQL. So if you take Yoruba, for example, there's Ekiti Yoruba, there's Egba, there's Ijebu. Those are all different dialects, but they all understand each other on a playing field. Now, when you go
Mm,
into each of those different territories, they now have their own nuances. That's the same with SQL. SQL is a general term, but each distro of SQL now has its own different language, and but it's still something that you can move from one software to another software, right?
wow.
Now, so it's something that it can be broken down into a way that you would understand. It's not some big thing that it can would fly over your head. Basically, data analysis is something you find interesting because it relates to your day-to-day life.
That's so amazing. The way you break it down, because I know that so many people think that they need to know how to code, they need to know how to do some very advanced techie things before they can move
Right.
into data analysis. But from your explanation, like anybody can become a data analyst as long as they put in the time that is required to
Right.
learn data analysis as well. I think that's
Right.
the factor. People are not always willing to put in the time and effort required to
Right.
succeed in data analysis. Okay,
Right.
and I like the fact that you touched on data on Microsoft Excel as well or Google Sheets, depending on the one that they prefer. But would you say it's better to learn in the traditional Microsoft Excel or in Google Sheets? Because I kind of find that both of them have Google Sheets kind of has some limitations unlike Excel.
Right. So they're both very similar, right? It's again, it comes to distros. Excel is a Microsoft tool. Google Sheet is a Google tool or an Alphabet tool. They have very similar platforms. They have, in fact, almost similar application, right? You might only find a few nuances here and there, and you might also find a few things that you'll be able to do in Microsoft Excel that you may not be able to do in Google Sheets. But on a general term, both of those two tools are very useful in data analytics, right? So whether you decide to use Google Sheets or you decide to go into Microsoft Excel, you'll still be doing the same thing. It's just that a lot of people prefer to use Microsoft Excel because of the plethora of opportunities that you have. And in fact, Microsoft Excel now has introduced some new features into the current versions of Excel, like AI has been embedded into the new versions of Excel. So it makes it even easier for you now to do analysis on Google Sheets, on
Mm,
Microsoft Excel. Makes your life much more easier. Some things that traditionally in the past would have to manually do them. Now within Excel itself, AI can help you achieve some of these things that in a much more easier and faster. So
mm.
choosing which one to go to, both are, have their own unique preferences. But if you're coming to learn, I would say start with Excel. and then
Yeah.
migrates to do it with time.
Yeah, and I mean, this is for also business analysts that are listening. There's so many roles that require you to have some level of data analysis skills, but I wouldn't say the starting point should be learning business and learning all of the tools in data analysis. But if you've
Right.
already understood everything about business analysis and you really want to stand out in the tech market, gaining data analysis skills can also help you. So by the time you combine what you've learned in business analysis and you also add what you learn in data analysis, emphasis on learning data analysis. Don't tell me, oh, I learned how to use SQL. Do you understand the reason why organizations use SQL? Because that's what I find with a lot of people. When I talk to people, they say, oh, I learned Python, I learned SQL. Do they really understand? So, how would you say that people can understand on how to apply the skills that they learn in these tools, not paying
Right.
attention to the tool? Because, like you said, in Yoruba language, we have different levels of languages and all that, but we are all speaking one language, right?
Right.
So how would you say a business analyst in this instance can come in to understand from the back end, why do I need to use SQL? But how would it help my job? And how would it help me to stand out in the tech market as well? So if you can just explain, the theoretical part of SQL, for example, and how someone can use it to say, oh, you can make data-driven decisions.
All right. So, one of the pitfalls that a lot of beginners coming into the data field they fall into is they understand the theory, but the
Mm,
application is back there. And I see a lot of this when I'm privileged to interview people in some roles for some organizations. You ask certain questions. For example, I'd ask, what is VLOOKUP? And you're giving me a textbook definition of VLOOKUP. So from my perspective, when I'm the interviewer, what I want to understand from you is how do you understand VLOOKUP? Not from the theoretical perspective, but from the projects that you've done. What were some of the learnings that you took from there? So I usually tell my mentees when you're being asked a question during interviews, don't give textbook answers. Talk about what you learned in the past while building projects. So I would always emphasize that you build projects, and it's from there that you build experience and you build expertise, not
yeah.
just, oh, VLOOKUP is XYZ. Talk about, oh, I remember a time when I was doing VLOOKUP and I was working on this project and I had to use this function. These were the challenges I faced, and this was how I solved it using this function or using this tool to solve that. Right now, coming to SQL, SQL has, so the beautiful thing about analysis is the fact that all of these tools are very similar. In Excel, for example, when you are combining different texts together, right? You have first name, middle name, last name. You want to combine that into full name. We use a function that's called concatenate, right?
Yeah.
If you have a survey form, you'd fill first and second name, and then maybe the person doing analysis wants to gather your full name, they'll combine it into full name. There's the word concatenate. Now, when you come into SQL, it's not much different from that. There is also that function, which is concatenate or concat, depending on which version of SQL that you're using. So you have those words as well, very similar as well. So it's something that you do every day. They'll ask you what's your first name, what's your last name. You go to companies, you feel that. They'll ask you for that, and then you have your full name. Do that. You go to Power BI, very similar as well. Concat, right? Joining together, combining them together. Another practical use of this is businesses that maybe have sales. And each month you have sales and you gather your data for each month. So you'd have a file for January, you have a file for February, you have a file for March, all the way through December. And you want to now analyze the sales over the year. Now you have all these files individually, different silos of data, but you want to do analysis for the complete year. So you have to find a way to combine all of those files into one, right? So it can be tedious for you to now say, okay, add this to this. But SQL makes your life easier. Just one word, which is union, or if you prefer, union all, and combine all of those into a single file. And then you can now do analysis and say, okay, what was the trend that happened over the year? So instead of you now manually adding files, just that singular function would combine all of those files for you into a single file, and you can do your analysis much more easier. And same way
Mm,
Power BI. So you don't have to do analysis for January, then come to February and do another analysis. You do just one analysis and it saves you time as well.
Wow. You've gone very techy as well. So would you say, because I generally say you don't need any pyro experience at all.
Oh,
What you need is a laptop and a willingness to learn. Because you mentioned something about Excel. So there's this
mm-hmm,
lady I know, right? I know a lot of people,
mm-hmm,
but this particular lady that I know, she currently
yeah,
works with the NHS. Okay,
right,
and she was able to also secure a visa sponsorship. So she used to be
right,
a healthcare staff, and then
mm-hmm,
she fought her way. She did the training. When she spoke to me, she said she did over 10 capstone projects. So when
right,
she actually went to do the interview, it was easy peasy for her because she already understood what to do with the data that they gave to her. And obviously, if you go and do interviews nowadays, they give you a case study, they tell you to explain how you will do XYZ. Now, the point I'm
right,
trying to drive at is she told me that in her current role with the NHS, all she uses is she uses Excel and Power
mm-hmm,
BI. She
right,
said she learns SQL in her training, she learns Python in her training, but all she's using is Excel and Power BI. I was like, wow, so many people downgrade Excel and think they
right,
don't need it, but they
mm-hmm,
actually need the knowledge of Excel. And they can be
right,
so solid in Excel, like to know the advanced level, like pivot table charts, all the VLOOKUPs and all that that you were talking about. And
right,
some people think that they can learn it on their own. But in the lady's words, she said the training really helped her because she had someone to teach her live. Okay, and she could now go to the capstone project that was shared by her trainer, and she just
right,
kept on getting her hands dirty. So every
right,
interview she went for, she was successful. And the only reason
mm-hmm,
she couldn't take some of the jobs were because she actually needed a visa sponsorship. She was on a healthcare visa sponsorship. So she had to leave from that healthcare visa sponsorship to another sponsorship. So that kept her
right,
longer in the job market. So what would you say
right.
to people that say, "Oh, I can learn it on my own," or "Do I need prior experience? Do I need to code before they can actually, move into data analysis?"
Okay, that's great. So there's two things I'm going to talk about, or let me just call it two myths that I'm going to demystify here. The
Yeah.
first thing is um, you at the beginning you feel like you don't belong at first.
Mm,
Don't worry, everyone does, right? There's this imposter syndrome where you feel I don't belong here. Everyone does at some point, right? And so it's like joining a gym. You don't get to go in lifting 50 kg when you go in. You start small, right? And each steps builds up your confidence. And it's the same thing with data. You have to start somewhere, right? Find a community, ask questions. Data is not a field where you stay isolated. Data is a community, right? You share your messy charts, you share your challenging stories, you find people to help you and encourage you as you go along the way. And in building that community could be a learning community where you have a trainer, a facilitator helping you one way or the other. But when you are learning in isolation, you you most likely would not see your own pitfalls. There's no one to guide you to say, okay, you're making mistakes here, turn this way. But when
mm,
you're learning within a community and they're seeing what you're doing, they can tell you, okay, you're doing great at this point, but look at it from this other perspective. Don't make these mistakes. Others who have gone ahead of you have made these mistakes. Learn from those mistakes. So that's the place where community comes in, where you have a trainer, a mentor come in and help you. And then I also always encourage people to learn in public. Now, when I say learn in public, what I mean is whatever you're learning, share your stories online. Be visible. Let recruiters see your learning trend, your trajectory. I've seen people who just arrive. No one just arrives. We all have a story, right? So
yeah.
the recruiters are not going to just hire you because you just posted a capstone project online, one big project that you did. How did you do that project? You could have copied it from anywhere. But when we can see, okay, you started learning, okay, how to add, you started understanding how to filter, you understand how to freeze panes and all of that. We see all of that journey. It may not be perfect, But we see someone who is willing to learn, who has a sponge mind to absorb and has critical thinking abilities, right? So that's what you're looking for. What recruiters are basically looking for from beginners. The second thing I want to demystify is the fact that you don't need to have a computer science degree. You don't need to
And,
have technical knowledge. You don't need to know how to code to come into
mm,
data, right? You don't need to, in fact, a lot of people think I need to learn statistics, I need to know all these big algebra and all these functions. No, you don't, right? You just
mm,
need to have an open mind. I've mentored teachers, I've mentored marketers, I've mentored, in fact, one of my mentees was CFO of an organization, a very big company in Nigeria, right? Who
amazing.
does Excel every day, but didn't know what Excel could do. In fact, in her own words, her assistant was a threat to her job because almost all the analysis she had to do, the assistant was the one doing it. So the
Wow.
GMD was now always going to the assistant, but she was the CFO. But the assistant was the one who understood the insights from the data. She had all the data, but she didn't understand the insights and how to get those insights. So she
Wow.
needed someone to train her. Okay, how do I do what my assistant is doing so that I don't lose my job, right? So it's not that data is something mystical or you need some technical background. No, you don't. All you need to do is just have a willing mind, have an open mind. And yeah, I'll give you another example. I had a teacher, right, who was teaching 6 year olds. And when she came in, she thought, okay, I only teach 6 year old students and I break it down into little concepts. And for me, that was something that I appreciated because it means that this person can break down insights to a level that a novice would understand. So if there is this complex data that's coming in, this person that can break down concepts for 6 year olds can break the same concept down for CFOs and CTOs and CEOs who do not understand the technical jargons of data. So
Mm,
that's something that is also an advantage. So a lot of people would also think, okay, I'm coming from this background. How does it fit into data that I'm not coming into? That is actually your superpower. It's an advantage when you're going for interview because you have something other people don't.
mm, amazing. 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 I mean, that is a beautiful example. And it just tells you that if you really want to go far in your career,
Right.
you want to grow, you want to move forward in your career, you should not be scared of data. It is basic
Definitely.
skill now. It's basic skills. You don't have to be someone writing Python every day, but be someone that when you see, you know, thousands, millions of rows of data, you're not running away. You're like, yeah, I know where to start from. Yeah, I know where to start
Right.
from as a data
Right.
analyst. So from your own experience and having coached so many people, and I really love the example you gave about a CFO, someone at the CFO level that is still scared, because what's the point? I have an assistant and the person can do everything I need to be doing. I'm sure the CFO is earning, way higher than the than the assistant. Then
Definitely.
as a business owner, you're thinking, why do I need to keep you when you don't even know? So this is a wake up call for people in finance as well. You can't say you're working in finance and you can't even analyze data. So for me, I would say, what are the steps? I know that you have to clean the data. How do you clean the data? What are the if we break it down to, I know there's a lot of steps, but if we break it down to like the five major steps that you need to take as a data analyst to say, yes, I've done the job, and you can present it to your senior management and say, this is what I've done. These are the insights.
Right.
How
Right.
would you say that we can break them down into five major steps?
Okay. So once the first thing is gather your data. Get the data from some source. And there are different sources of data. We have primary, secondary, tertiary data. So for
Yeah.
most organizations, the data are primary data within your organization, for most organizations. In some cases, the data is from some other source, right? But you have your data. Now, when you have your data, the next thing now is preparing the data for analysis. That's where your data cleaning comes in. You're preparing the data, removing the empty columns, filling in missing variables, and presenting the data in a way that makes it easy for you to analyze. So this is where you're doing your all this beautiful functions that I talked about earlier, concatenate, your conditional formatting, and all of that. So when you've not done that, you now do your analysis, right? So the analysis part is the part where you are summarizing your data. So you'd have thousands or millions or hundreds of thousands of rows of data. A lot of us are very good at, in fact, not just a lot of us. Today's world, we have a very short attention span.
Attention
If
span,
you
yeah.
look, right? So I'm not going to sit here and say, let me look at hundreds of thousands of data. I'm not going to do that because time moves very quickly. Time is money today. So you want to see your analysis in few seconds or maybe a minute, and then you're done with it. So that's your job as a data analyst. You are synthesizing the data or hundreds of thousands of rows of data for stakeholders who do not have the time to sit and go through that data. That's why you are being paid. So that analysis is where you're now synthesizing into charts, into graphs that can help them understand their businesses, right?
Mm.
And I'll say this: there are times where, as a data analyst, you your process is correct, but your analysis may be wrong.
Oh,
And
okay.
at the same time, I always tell people, as a data analyst, you have the power of life and death in your hands. We have the power to make and to kill. You can kill a business with the wrong analysis, right? So if
Mm.
the analysis that I make is saying that, okay, our company is moving in this direction, the process I went through may be correct, but the data that I used was not correct. I've given the wrong interpretation to that business. That business would collapse because of my analysis. But
Right.
if I get the right analysis, that business could be the next big thing because my analysis was correct. And that's why you'd find a lot of businesses, in fact, almost every business today has a data analyst because they want to understand what's going on with their business, how are
Sometimes
they,
even more than one.
right? So how are they doing compared to the competitors, right? What is the competitor doing that we are not doing that can make us better than them, right? So those are some of the things that you're looking at. And another big thing as a data analyst you need to learn is storytelling. That's
Mm.
one of the part of a data analyst. It's not just for you to create charts and visuals. Your charts and your visuals need to tell a story. And this is where your real power lies as a data analyst, right? Can you take that raw data that you have and then tell a story, right? Like, for example, sales dropped in second quarter. It was most likely due to maybe okay, I live in Lagos, right? So it may most likely due to Lagos stores underperforming during maybe rainy season, which we're in right now. So now you are not just telling them that there was a drop in sales using chat. You are telling them that you are providing them clarity and you're giving context to what likely happened. You are telling it in a story, not just giving them numbers and charts for them to work with. And that's the real power of a data analyst.
Mm. Okay. So can you summarize the 5 steps for us, for people on the call, so that they just say, okay, this is everything I need to know to be a good data analyst.
So the first thing is you need to gather your data, right? So
Gather
once
your
you've
data.
gathered,
One.
right,
Mm-hmm.
so now you're cleaning your data. You're
Clean your
preparing the
data.
data for analysis, right? Then you
Okay.
analyze your data. That's where you are now preparing it for your visuals. Then you now visualize the data. Then you
Visualize
provide recommendation and insights to your stakeholders.
recommendation and insight to your stakeholders. Amazing. So I hope everyone heard that. So for you to be a good data analyst, you need to, of course, the source of your data, you need to get your data, and it can be from anywhere. It could be from the back end, it could be from your stakeholders, it could, depending on the organization you're working. Then you need to
Right.
clean the data. Okay, when you clean the data, you now need to start preparing and all that for your analysis. Then you analyze the data, prep for visualization, you visualize the data, post recommendations, of course, and the insights as well. And I see that these are the steps that you actually need to take because, again, organizations are data driven. We've seen that a lot of AI tools are coming out. I know a lot of people are scared that, oh, AI is going to take my job. AI is not going to take your job because even for these tools that are being built by founders, AI driven tools that are using for you to be more effective in your role, all of these
Right.
tools still need someone to analyze because guess what? The competition is fierce. So
Definitely.
they need to still analyze and be sure that, oh, have we got the right features? Can we do better? A lot of other insights still need to come into the tools. So what would you say to people that think, oh, data analysis is out of fashion, AI is going to take my job?
All right. So data AI is not AI could likely take your job. That's the truth.
Yeah.
Um, some years ago, right, we did not have computers. People were sending letters, handwritten letters. Someone was responsible for transporting that letter from one location to the other. Today, we do not have that. Those people who did that are probably out of jobs right now, right? Because they did not upskill, right?
Mm,
So technology replaced them, but technology could actually enhance your job. Those people who did not stay at that level and upskilled, leveraged on technology in their job, are still employed today. The same thing with AI. AI is not here to take your job. AI is here to make your life easier, right?
mm,
So you can use AI, for example, now ChatGPT, right? A lot of people feel ChatGPT is here to destroy them. No, it's not. There are coding tools that can write codes, but at the same time, those tools can actually help you do your job faster. I heard of
okay.
a story of someone, I think, I'm not sure, I think he's a CTO now. He used to write codes. So when he got to it, when he got his job, the coding that would have taken 2 weeks, he did it in a single day. And so
Wow.
the manager was wondering what others were not doing that he was doing that made him so efficient, right? So
Mm,
because he was leveraging the power of AI to help him, it wasn't that he was copying the codes from AI, but it was leveraging AI to say, okay, how do I do this and how do I, which made him understand what he needed to do. So the same thing with data analytics. AI is not taking over your job. AI makes your life easier. You can use AI to, for example, I said Microsoft had introduced AI into Excel, right? So AI, it helps you ask the right questions. Just looking at that data, it can tell you, okay, these are the kind of questions you should be asking from this data, right? Instead of you now going, taking time and, all the things that would have taken you maybe a week to analyze, within a
mm,
day, you can do an analysis and you get the outputs that you're looking for. The important thing is knowing how to leverage AI
how to
and
leverage
using
it?
it
Yeah.
to your advantage,
Wow.
right? So could it replace you? Yes, if you don't upskill.
If you
But will
don't,
it replace you? No, it will not replace you.
absolutely, you have to move with the speed of light. Part of what we are
Absolutely.
going to be adding to our trainings is AI. AI can help you to be more efficient with job applications, with a lot of things, but you need to know how to use it strategically, because if you're using it like every other person, trust me when I
Correct.
say that, is you're just still going to be lost in the ocean. So you still need to know, how do I use AI efficiently? And I love that you shared a lot of insights on that. So we have a question from Instagram. What's the difference between data analysis and business analysis? So you've already explained a lot about data analysis. So I'll just take the help that question to say that, as a business analyst, right, you are not there to say do SQL or do Python, although there are some roles now in the markets that are heavy on data. So this is where reading your job description will really, really help you, so that you know that, oh, I've got the skills or I don't have the skills. Now, as a business analyst, you are just see yourself in an organization. So let's say the name of the organization is ABC Company, for example. Now, ABC Company has a lot of things that they want to achieve. Maybe they are making £100 million at the moment, and for the future, they see themselves making more money. Now, maybe they don't have good customer service system, and when customers call in, the wait time is long. There's a lot of wait time. And if
Right.
you look at time is money, you might think that your customer service spending so much time on the phone with your clients. You might think it's just them, they're doing the job. I'm not the one doing the job. But what you don't know is that they're spending time. And if you quantify that data analysts can also quantify the time to say X amount of hours are being wasted. So we need to
Mhm.
save those hours so that our staff is using that time for more efficient tasks. So that is your job as a business analyst. You are helping organizations to see what can be improved. It could be either processes, it could be that they should buy a solution off the shelf, or they should build a solution. So there are different things that we do as BAs. The most important thing for you to know is, as a BA, you get into the system, help to identify the problems and also recommend solutions. Now, a data analyst will then come here, like Jacob explained, get the data. It could be from the back end, get the data from any source within the organization, clean up the data, prep the data, analyze the data, and then make sure that you are visualizing the data. Because you cannot just analyze data and tell me and come to a meeting and you're just telling me this. No, you have to visualize it and also recommend based on the insights that you've gotten from the data. I don't know if you have any other thing to add to that, Jacob.
So I would say that so as a business analyst, basically what you're looking at, what's the need of the business, what the
Yes,
business
absolutely.
needs. A data analyst is looking at what does the data say. So that's one key difference. So I'll just give an example. So let's say so let me just so a business analyst is like the navigator, right? You understand where the company is going. So you're asking where are we taking this route? Why are we taking this direction? Why are we taking this route? Right? So that's the job of a business analyst. A data analyst, on the other hand, is like the dashboard reader, right? You're checking like just like a car, you're checking the speed, you're checking the fuel, you're checking the temperature of the car, and you want to make sure that you're making smart decisions based on the current metrics that you're seeing. So that's the difference. So business analyst is like the navigator, data analyst is basically like the dashboard reader. So you're looking at what the data says versus which direction the company is going.
Amazing. So I don't know if that answered your question. I think it was Noble Barrister. You can just say if you have any other question or if that's answered your question. Okay, amazing, amazing stuff. I know that we're running on we're just looking at the time to make sure that we don't keep Jacob longer than we planned to. I know you said you had another meeting soon, so I don't know if there are any questions from anyone that is listening to us. I'm just looking if there are any questions. I mean, this is your chance to ask if you have any questions. So what would you say, Jacob, is because obviously there are a lot of tools that people can learn. So we've talked about Excel. So would you recommend
Right.
that somebody should learn, say, Tableau, for example, and Power BI, or the person should learn either of them, and then once you learn one of them, you are able to apply the learnings into another one when you get into the company?
Right. So this is something that a lot of people want to do. You want to learn everything, right?
Jack of all
All of
trades.
this, right? And that's it's if you can learn everything, it's great, it's perfect. But I would say stick with one. The
Mm,
reason why I'm saying stick with one is because whatever you're doing in one of those tools is transferable to the other tool. So
absolutely.
whatever you're able to do in Power BI, you can do in Tableau. Whatever you're doing in Tableau, you can do in Power BI. Yes, are there differences? Definitely, there are a few differences, but you would be able to seamlessly fit into either of those tools when you go into an organization. There are organizations that will tell you, yes, we want Tableau, but when you go for the interview, and you tell them, I understand Power BI, and they give you a case study, you are able to implement it perfectly on Power BI. They know that you understand your onions, you know what to do, and you can easily migrate into Tableau because whatever you've done, you can duplicate and replicate that
Duplicated.
process also in Tableau. So, should you learn both? Not necessary. Is it a
Mm,
good thing to have both? If you can, go ahead. But I would say stick with one and know that one perfectly.
yeah. Personally, I'm against people being jack of all trades, to be honest, because
Right.
I noticed that when people hop around and want to learn everything, to be honest, they end up not learning anything.
Anything. And they end up more confused
And they end up
because
not.
now you're trying to do that. Exactly. You end
Yeah,
up
so
more
I really
confused.
recommend people learning a tool and being a master at the tool and then moving on to the next one. So I like the fact that you said once you learn one of the tools, then you can apply the learning. It also applies to business analysis. So we have things like Microsoft Visio, we have Lucid Chat, we have Miro, and some other tools that are similar because you want to use them for process mapping, for use case modeling, and all of that. Now, if you learn one of them, I guarantee you that you can learn the other one easily. Even if you have an interview and they ask you, do you know how to use X, Y, and Z? Because you already know the alternative. Your
Right.
interviewers, just be honest. I think sometimes all we want to do is go and lie. There's sometimes just be honest because they can
Right.
see through it, because people are cramming textbooks, cramming things to go to interviews. Just be honest because when you are a fluent speaker, it is always obvious to your
Right.
to your listener, if you're very honest. Okay,
Right.
so I know we have about 8 minutes more. I just want to ask my final question before we start to wrap up and take any questions from anybody. Please feel free to ask your questions. Your questions can
So
be around Microsoft
that's
Excel.
I just want to
Sorry?
say something. I just want to
Okay.
say something to the last point before you ask
Yeah.
a question. So, a lot of people wonder what companies are looking for, especially for entry level, right?
Yeah.
So, a lot of people think, oh, I need to be perfect and I need to know everything. So, companies are not looking for perfection. They know that you don't know everything, and you will not know everything, right? So
Absolutely.
what they're looking for is someone who can think critically, right? Someone who can communicate their findings clearly, and someone who has a willingness to learn fast, right? I've seen people who have gotten hired just because they were curious, right? They took feedback well, and they could explain their chart in plain English, not in all these technical jargons that would confuse other people. So just
Mhm.
have a curious mind and be willing to learn very fast and quickly. So if you have those three things, you are almost ready to get employed, and almost any employer will be able to employ you because they see that your mind is actually open to learn something new, and you are not portraying yourself as Mr. Perfect. In fact, there was a time that I interviewed someone. I think that was 2 years ago for a company, and this guy was almost too good. And just because he was too good, we could have given him an offer, but we declined to give him an offer because he sounded
Wow.
too good.
Too
We
good.
one of the reasons the manager said was, if this tech comes in, we may not be able to pay this person, and he's not going to last long in our company, right? So if
Because
it
it
comes
goes to
in,
the
is
next big place. Yeah.
exactly right. So they may not be able to keep you. And companies are looking for someone who would stay and help them build
Long
that company.
term. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
don't try to sound too good. Don't try to sound too perfect. Just have an open mind and be willing to learn.
Mm. That's really, really insightful. And if you perfect your craft, so I know that some people might just be joining, they're just listening to us, they're wondering what's going on here. But the thing is that when you are good at what you do, I gave an example of someone working with the NHS, did couple of interviews, smashed all the interviews. The reason why she stayed longer in the job market was because she was on a healthcare sponsorship visa and needed to move from that visa into another visa that had data analysis. So she
Right.
couldn't say yes to an offer if there was no visa sponsorship. So that kept her
Mm.
longer in the market. I know that some people are worried, oh, if I leave my current role with my visa sponsorship, is it going to start counting from the beginning? I heard from her it doesn't stop counting. You once you move into a new sponsorship and it's a new field or a new role, it just continues. It continues, rolls over. So you don't have to start counting from the beginning. I know a lot of people are worried about that. So she
Right.
told me that whilst she was waiting, in her waiting period, she just kept on working on capstone projects. And that is
Right.
the grit that a lot of people don't have.
Mm.
Because you might read a lot of things on LinkedIn, they tell you this, they tell you that, but I'm a very realistic person. What you put in is what you get out. Okay,
True.
if you get on your laptop and you are doing everything that was given to you, you're working on projects in, projects out. There's a lot of project nowadays. There's different website that we give our students, right? That they can get data set from and just keep working on it, present it, come on camera, boost your confidence. I've seen a lot of people tell me, oh, when I joined your bootcamp, I'm now confident. I can speak in public. Before I couldn't speak, I'll run away. But now I can turn on my camera, I can talk, I can do this, I can do that. So all of these things are things that make you better at your craft. You can't be
Right.
hiding amongst
Hmm.
your cohort colleagues and then you think you're going to face an interviewer. It's going to be really
And,
difficult.
and speaking to that, project actually trumps certificates. I've seen people pile up certificates without any
Yeah.
projects to show for it. Projects would always trump certificates.
Yeah.
Recently, so I can't remember whether it was on Twitter or on LinkedIn. I saw someone posted a project that he did, and
Okay.
it wasn't even data from any website. It was data of his church. He just analyzed the church attendance,
Wow.
and it blew my mind because it was real. It showed some initiative, and it had some insights from it as well. So you don't need to have this huge amount of data of organizations. Just start with the little amount of data that you have and talk about it in public. Because trust me, if that person applies for a job and companies see projects like that on
That's
the person's
done. Yeah.
line, it's very easy to get this person employed because we can see the track record. We see he's willing to learn. We see he's initiative. So it's easy
Yeah.
to get that person employed. So don't wait to be perfect, right? Just start
Mm.
from where you are. And
Amazing.
yeah.
Amazing. Yeah, hands-on experience beats it anytime. Hands-on experience cannot be compared. It beats it every time. Okay, amazing stuff. I mean, as we round up now, some people go for interviews, they are giving case studies, they are told to do a case study before they can even speak to them. I see that happen time and time. How would you advise they can attack the case study as a data analyst if they just get that in their interview?
So case study is just like any other capstone project you're working on.
Mm,
Understand the data. That's the first step. Understand the data that you're working with and understand what the company is actually looking for. The danger a lot of people have is they just dive into the data and then they start creating charts and visualizations without understanding what is the data actually telling me, right?
to do.
You're not the one telling the data what you want. You allow the data to speak to you. So understand the data before you start creating charts and visualizations. Um, Look at the data. What are some things that you need to clean up? Clean up that data as best as you can, and then go into the analysis and understanding the insights. Ask questions of that data, right? There are times you're going to see that data and you're going to say, okay, something is off about this. Ask questions. Why is this off? And then go back to the data itself. Ask as many questions as possible. I always ask at least seven levels of why, right? Why
Yeah.
is this? And once you get the answer to that why again, once you get to the seventh level, trust me, you'll get clarity to that answer that you're looking for, and you'll be able to provide the answer as best as you can for the capstone that you've been given or the case study that the organizations have given.
Mm, wow, amazing. So you heard it right. If you have an interview, don't be scared. You have a case study, understand, just calm down. Even applies to business analysis as well. You go for an interview and they give you a case study to do. Just calm down. Understand it. Because you can't really be recommending something to your stakeholders or your interviewer without understanding the data. It's going to be obvious that you've not understood the data.
Yeah.
So yeah, as we wrap up, I just want to say if you're interested in a data analysis career and you want to get started or you want to just learn Excel, maybe you're trying to work on Typical, you don't want to deep dive into the data yet, you just want to understand Excel, understand PowerPoint. These are like the bedrock. You can always reach out to us, reach out to me. Oh, I want to learn Excel, I want to learn PowerPoint. You might have done a project management training, a business analysis training, and you're still scared of data, you can't see data and do anything with it, then I recommend you start from Excel. Learn how to use Excel, learn how to use PowerPoint. Okay. And then if you want to go to the next level, you want to understand data analysis, data analytics, reach out to us as well. We currently have a percentage off, okay, for our data analysis bootcamp at Innovate Path Consulting. So we'll be happy to help you get started. Any final words, Jacob?
Um, Final words. Okay. I think if there's one thing that everyone should take away from here is you don't have to wait to feel ready before you start, right? Because you will never feel ready, right? And the
Mm,
moment where you feel ready, you're already too late.
yeah.
Start with what you know, stay consistent, and then share your journey, right? And
Mm.
I just want to tell you that you've got this. We believe in you, and we can't wait to see the beautiful stories that you'll be creating.
Now you tell. Yeah, amazing, amazing. The best time to start is now. I've recently been watching a lot of podcasts and it's all the same. You admire someone, you want to get somewhere, you want to reach for the top, and you feel like where
Right.
you are at the moment is too small. The only way to
Right.
move away from where you are is to get started. And don't also limit what you can invest in yourself. Because I also
Right.
invest in myself a lot on different things where I want to get to, with my life. So investing in yourself is really, really good and key to success. Invest in yourself, learn as well. Don't pay for trainings and you're nowhere to be found. So invest in yourself, get on the training, learn, work on capstone project. And I'm sure your data analysis career is literally just at the next stop where your boss is gonna, drop you. So thank you so much, Jacob. I don't know if there are any questions. I just want to check on Instagram, on Facebook, because we're live on Instagram, on Facebook, and on LinkedIn as well. I don't know if there are any
Awesome.
questions as we wrap up this conversation. Any questions? Any questions? Any questions? Doesn't look like there are
Thank you for having me
questions.
on. I hope
Sorry?
I said thank you for having me on this platform. I hope I've been able to provide some clarity to someone.
No, no, I'm sure because it was so in fact insightful. A lot of people are scared of going for interviews. When I get a case study, what do I do in the case study? And you really, really, really broke it down. Where do we find capstone projects, please? You've got a question. They don't want to let you go
They
now.
There are several websites where you can find data. You will not find capstone projects. You will only find data, right? So you can find data from several platforms, U.S. government, statistics websites. You can get even from Wikipedia. You can get data from Wikipedia. You can get data from Cargo, right? So Maven Analytics is another platform where you can get data. So you just get data. There's no one who's going to give you capstone projects. You now have to generate questions and ask how do you analyze that data and solve whatever problem you think you can solve using that data.
Yeah. Okay, does that answer your question? When is the BA training coming up? So the BA training is coming up on the 7th of June. Please, can we drop the details of the BA training in the chat as well? Jacob, I hope I can still get you for a couple of minutes before you run away.
I'm already running late for my meeting at 4:30.
Okay, because I think I saw you already answered the capstone project. I mean, joining our boot camps, we always share these capstone projects. We always share it with you. So if you in the training, then you have access to it. You present your capstone projects when you do them. The more you do it, the better you become. That's just the truth. Okay.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Practice makes perfect. Um,
Yeah. Practice
Without
makes.
practice, you never get better. You never know what you're good at and what you need to improve on.
Yeah. You just have to. You just have to keep. That's the truth about data analysis. Is literally practice makes perfect. Practice makes perfect. There is no shortcuts. There's no shortcut to it. Okay, docs. Thank you so much, Jacob, and thanks everyone for joining, for engaging. I really appreciate it. Always remember the best time to start is now. That's it.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much.
thanks, Jacob.
Thank you.
Yeah. Bye everyone. And see you on the next one.